Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. I'm Justin Barrientos. Thank you for joining us here today. We are brought to you by Russell & Associates and coming to you from the 111 Riverfront Building, the Latch Development Center in downtown Winona. And we'll talk men's basketball here with head coach Todd Eisner. Thanks for joining us here today. I know that the end of the year is always kind of a difficult time to kind of talk about things, but let's first wrap up the last two games of the season, and then we'll talk about what's in the future for Warrior basketball. You were on the road on Thursday against Minnesota State Mankato, and it was a close game. The score ended up being closer at the end because of Luke Martin's three. You guys had the lead. It was lead changes all over the game. Tell us a little bit from your perspective how that game went.
Yeah, frustrating. We knew we had to win the game. We knew that not winning the game could put us in harm's way in terms of having the ability to qualify for the postseason, and which obviously became true. And guys really battled. We didn't play great in the first half. I think we were down 6 at the half, and really struggled to shoot the ball. I think we were 0 for our first 9 or 10 from the three, but stayed in there, hung in there. We held Mankato to 37.5% shooting, but we gave up 10 offensive rebounds or 10 second chance points, and so we were battling, not playing great, but we were in it, and we had done it all year, and so we weren't overwhelmed with not playing as well as we needed to. We knew we could come back, and our guys did a nice job of coming back, got the lead, and tied 61-61. They missed 2 free throws. We rebounded it. A very shaky jump ball call that the possession went to Mankato, and they scored off of it. But it really came down to about the last 7 minutes. We just didn't defend very well. We had gotten through the 8-minute media timeout. Mankato was shooting 38% from the floor in the second half, so really through 32 minutes we had held them to 38%. And if you do that on the road, you got a great chance to win a game or steal a game if you're not playing great. And so we were right there. And then the last 8 minutes, they were 6 of 9 from the floor, and of those 3 misses, they rebounded 2 of them and scored. So they really were 8 of their last 11. And yet they missed 2 free throws with 50 seconds to go. We rebounded it, tie game, and they came up with that jump ball, scored, and put us in a tough spot. We turned the ball over on the next possession, and they ended up basically winning the last minute of the game.
So then, obviously, the team rebounded from that because you come back on Saturday and you have senior day, and you play Concordia St. Paul, and you're able to get the win in that game. Tell us about the fight of the team. Last game, you knew you were out of the playoffs on Saturday, but still everybody played like the playoffs are still on the line, and you got a good performance.
Yeah, I thought it was really important that we honored Luke and Owen that way. I think before we went on air today, I talked about how some of the highlight clips we showed from the first time we played Concordia St. Paul to our guys, and they were some highlight tapes of hustle plays, and some of them were of Owen and Luke. And I said, to our guys, the best way we can honor them today is to do those type of things. And I was really proud of the way we played. We fought, we defended for the most part. Concordia St. Paul got a lot better throughout the year, and so we had a hard time guarding them. And they shot 50% the second half, which kept them in the game. But we did a nice job offensively in the second half and shot 61%. And under the circumstances of knowing that we weren't going to have another game, it really couldn't have ended any better. Luke hit a big 3 to get us the lead again after we gave up the lead. And then he hit the 2 free throws to clinch the game and played really well throughout the game with 19 points. So, without Owen being able to be there, that was a negative. Without having the postseason, that was a negative. But with those things, I thought our guys really did a nice job, and it was great to see Luke go out in his last game with a victory.
Yeah, and I want to highlight, as you mentioned that, because I don't think that was in the wrap-up after the game, but that 3 gives you the lead that you did not give back. So it was Luke kind of leading the way for your team at the end, which I think was fitting to end the season.
Yeah, we really talked to our guys. Those 2 in particular, I consider them to be a little old school. They're all about winning. They are guys that truly don't care if they score 3 points and we win, they're happy, and if they score 20 points and we lose, they're not happy. And those are harder characteristics to find these days. It's just a different era, and they've got a lot of old soul to them, and we're definitely going to miss that leadership and just that mentality that they brought to our program.
All right, and these are guys that you were Owen only played a couple years after the transfer from South Dakota, but Luke here 5 years, so you got to see the entirety of his Warrior career. What's it like to have to say goodbye to players like that when you've spent so much time with them?
Yeah, it's tough. I purposely brought the guys down to the locker room after our shoot around that morning because it was emotional. So they're really important to what we are trying to do yet, and they're a big help to the foundation that we really truly believe in, which is just coming to work every day, really competing, being about us. And they were awesome. Luke in his 5 years and Owen in his 3 years. And like I said, one of the biggest concerns, and I know we're going to talk about the future here a little bit, one of the biggest concerns I have is I didn't really see anybody latch on to those two as to how they prepared every day. And so it's going to be a big piece to trying to grow our program, is finding guys that are willing to be leaders, because leadership's hard. You have to be there every single day for your team and hold yourself to a really high standard, and those two did a great job of that. So we're going to definitely miss those two.
All right, so you mentioned it, let's get kind of an insight into what happens next, because as we've said before, for players and for coaches, there's really no off season anymore. Yeah. Everything is 365 all the way around. So for you now, what's next, and when is the next time that you actually bring your team together? Yeah,
we've got to get better. To say, hey, let's take a week and just kind of veg out and not do anything. I mean, we can't do that. So from our guys' standpoint, the NCAA does regulate some of that. So we cannot work with them for 2 weeks. The negative of not being in the postseason for us and the way our academic calendar falls, it's actually going to be 3 weeks for our guys, and our guys can't afford that. I'm good with giving them some time off. I'm not a big fan of 2 weeks personally, and now because these 2 weeks roll right into spring break, it's going to be a 3-week break from basketball activity for these guys in terms of what we can supervise and be a part of, along with the weight room. We've got to get bigger, we've got to get stronger. I'm not as happy as I need to be about our development physically with our bodies, and how explosive we are or aren't, and how physical we are or aren't. And it's a huge 6 months for the returning guys to do some things with their bodies to get them, I think, a little more ready for the grind of a 22-game league schedule. So we'll start that as soon as we're able. It was good to see a couple guys were in the weight room already yesterday. So that's a positive sign. But from our standpoint, Zach and I have been, and Caleb have been, watching video of games of players that are on our radar that we think would be possible good additions to our program. So recruiting is going to be a big piece. Obviously the blizzard that's on its way is going to put a little wrench in kind of this midweek opportunity to go watch some games, and we got to figure out where we need help. It's not just bringing in anybody if those positions are kind of manned. So to say we want to bring in a 2 doesn't make a lot of sense when you got Connor Dillon there. But we have to meet with the players and see what their thoughts were on the season, what our thoughts were on their season, and I'm not naive enough to think after 25 years that maybe they're not going to agree with our evaluation of what we saw of them and what their role is going to be in the future, and so there could be some roster changes, maybe that we encourage, or maybe that they are more in tune to doing, and kind of build our roster from there. So it's a multi-piece kind of evaluation and time right now for the coaching staff and for the players. But we certainly are anxious to put ourselves in a position to not be doing what I'm doing right now, which is not playing the postseason. And I get that our format changed last year where not everybody gets to play, but I don't feel at any point in time we should be a program that's not playing in the postseason. And so for us to be that is not good.
All right, I have a complicated question
Sure.
I'm trying to develop now, and I'm pretty sure you understand where I'm going with this, but you don't have to give specifics. But when do players, because of the COVID situation, there's the transfer portal now, when do players have to let you know that they're not going to be in the program anymore, and how does a delayed notification of that kind of work on how you're trying to form the team?
Yeah.
And then also, you have incoming freshmen. How much of the team do you know that is coming back next season?
Yeah, those are all part of the the individual meetings that we will have with our guys, and sometimes I guess I look at it this way: we're 2 days into it right now, and I have anybody walk in and say, "Hey, coach, can we talk?"
Mm-hmm.
And I've done it long enough to know when they say, "Can we talk?" that usually means I'm letting you know that I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
So we haven't had any of that in the first 2 days. That doesn't mean it's not coming. And it's not to mean that I'm not going to strongly suggest that, hey, I'm not sure of what your future is going to hold for us. And, if you really want to play, maybe something should change in this dynamic. And so those are all, truthful conversations that we have to have. And then you come to some mutual agreement moving forward in one way or the other. And but with the transfer portal, and I don't know the exact date, I should know it, but I don't off the top of my head because it hasn't really impacted us, but there is a cutoff date for them to put their name in the portal, for them to have the ability to play right away at their next school.
Okay.
So you can go in the portal at any time. Like you can go in the portal on August 1. It's just you've passed the date that'll put you in a position where you're eligible to play right away. So I want to say at the Division II level it's June 1, but I'm not 100% on that. Okay. And so they do have a date that they have to have their name in the portal so that they can be immediate eligible at their next school. And so that's something that we would certainly let them know. And then obviously as those names start to come to us, which they're coming to us already in full force in terms of just monitoring the transfer portal, it's starting to get some names in it, and in the next month it's going to have hundreds of names in it. And then you got to play that game a little bit because it can work in a really positive way for you, and it can not work for you. And so at the end of the day, if you bring somebody in that you're really thinking and counting on having an immediate impact, and they get here and it's not what you hoped, you've also put your program, in a bind. And so it's hard, especially at our level, because we don't have the funds necessarily to fly to here and fly to there to maybe do an in-person evaluation on somebody, and so it's a little more of guesswork, and you got to call as many coaches as you can and try to get as much advice and input as you can, and keep your fingers crossed that you make the right choices and the people that come in can have a really positive impact on your program.
We've got about 2.5 minutes left in this segment, but I can't imagine the amount of work that goes into that because, as you said, there's hundreds of names. There's hundreds of schools around the country that are looking at those same names.
Absolutely.
And so you could put in so much work on evaluating a player only to have somebody else claim them. I mean, I can't even fathom what that is. What is that like for your coaching staff to have to sift through all of that and figure out who you want? Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, you try to, try to find out as much as you can about the situation as to why they're in the portal, and so there's certain things we certainly look for by position and by skill set, and so those will be the first things we look at is did they put up any type of numbers where they were at? Were they behind, were they a bench player, but they played behind an all-conference guy, but we saw him play in high school and really liked him? I mean, there's a million different factors that go into whether or not we feel comfortable with their situation. And like I said, I think it puts us in the best position to try to get as much input as we can from their coaches, their high school coaches. I mean, you just never know how many layers to the onion you need to peel, to be comfortable with the addition to your program, whether that's junior college or transfer portal or whatever it may be. And because that locker room's important too. I mean, they can have a ton of talent, and if they're disrupting the things that you're trying to do on a day-to-day basis, they can also be detrimental no matter how talented they are. So there's just a million pieces that go into it. Sometimes you hit the jackpot and bring in somebody that just is the difference in you winning a championship, and other times you think they have the ability to help you win a championship and they aren't a worker, or they are just really corrosive in terms of your culture and ends up hurting you. So there's a lot of things we got to dig into, and we'll find out here in the next 3 or 4 months if we've picked the right pieces. All right. Well, thank you for coming in. It's always fascinating to pick your brain on things like this and try to figure out what goes into the program, outside of game day and what we don't see. So thank you for coming in here.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Appreciate coming down and all the work that you do to support our program and Winona State athletics overall. And so anytime you need some help, I'll be down here to talk.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right, Justin.
All right. We're going to take a break here on the Warrior Report. When we come back, we'll talk women's basketball with head coach Ana Wurtz right after this. And welcome back to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. We are brought to you by Russell and Associates, coming to you from the 111 Riverfront Building, the Latch Development Center in downtown Winona. Time now to talk women's basketball. Head coach Ana Wurtz, thanks for joining us here today. I know it's hard to kind of wrap up the season, but you did end up on a good note. Let's go back to the game before that, though.
Yep.
Minnesota State, difficult loss there, and again, this is a team that you played really well, really tough in the first part of the game, and then it kind of slipped away at the end.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you felt with that one?
Absolutely. I mean, we were right with them. Team, I want to say we held them to 25 or something in the first half, which is not something. I mean, they play about a nearly 200 possession basketball game, which is on the very, very high end, highest probably in the country, one of. And so it's tough to hold them to low digits when you're getting so many possessions. So defensively, we hung with them, and we actually had the lead at half. So felt nice. Unfortunately, weren't able to hold on long enough to finish that game out. We, I guess, slowed down a bit. We missed some bunnies, and obviously at some point their pressure gets to you, and unfortunately we fell to that at some point. But we did hang on strong and competed.
Yeah. So unfortunately, that game then kind of ended your playoff hopes.
Right.
So you head into Saturday, and it's completely different. I mean, you pummeled Concordia St. Paul. So what do you think the difference was in that? Was it because you knew that it was, or the players knew it was going to be the last game, or they were playing for Shay and Lauren, or what was that kind of like?
I have no idea. You get to the end, and it's nice to see what we were capable of, and we definitely saw glimpses of it throughout the entire season. We certainly finished on a note where, okay, this is the product that we'd been working on and putting a lot of time in, and it was fun to see our players shine in that moment, but unfortunately, I wasn't in a situation that was, mattered for us moving forward. But it was great to finish off. Obviously, Lauren Fetch playing at her highest level to finish her college career. Shay getting in there made me a little nervous. A couple fell short on the front rim early, but finally knocked down a three to get the crowd rumbling. But it was a fun way to finish off the season, and then to see a lot of our players that are returning also just played really strong minutes and something to build from for sure.
So obviously you've been with the program the first year as head coach, but talk about what impact Lauren and Shay have had on the program and what you're going to miss from them next year.
Goodness, so much. You got from Lauren Fetch to join our program the way she did as a grad transfer, and then to get another opportunity with my first year as a head coach to be able to coach somebody of her, just caliber as a basketball player, but especially just her intensity, her passion, her commitment. We have a lot of players that work hard in our program, but I don't know that anyone would top the amount of time that girl has put into her game. She, would be asking for keys every Sunday to get in. She'd be asking for the lights to be turned every 10 p.m. at nights. I know sometimes being I wouldn't say a new mom, a mom of two young children, she was always hesitant to ask me, but I certainly said I'm always willing, and she would. There would be times 9, 10 p.m. she wanted to be in the gym. So just what she did for our culture as far as what it looks like to work and put time in, and then to reap the benefits and see, what you can do with that. So, and then you got Shay Decken, just from a culture standpoint, there's nobody that is as selfless as that person. She was our energy bus. She was our energy bus for 4 years now. She just got it. She understood that there's a bigger picture to what we do. It's not about me, it's we, and she bought into that as much as anybody I've ever seen in my time here. So, and she just kind of set the tone across the board. There's no concern about whether I play or not. I'm here for my teammates, and she certainly demonstrated that.
How difficult is it, and we talked about it on broadcast, and we talked about it when Shay was here. She was a very good high school basketball player. Led her team to state, was a key part in that, and then gets to Winona State and then doesn't see the playing time, but yet keeps the attitude up. How difficult is that? I know you didn't have to go through that, but as a player, how difficult is that?
Right. It's not that I didn't go through it, but I didn't go through it for my career. But my first year, I didn't. I was thrown into the game, at the last seconds. And I remember even some sort of bitterness to it because I'm like, hey, we get down 10 and now you want me on the floor? But I didn't guard anybody, so I wouldn't have put me out there either. But it's a learning experience for sure. But for Shay, I mean, yeah, I talk to my players about that all the time. Like, what we do on the basketball floor is there's so much more important to that. Now, you're here, you go all in. You're going to put in time, you're going to get in the gym, you're going to do everything you can to reach your goals. But at the same time, if they don't end up the way that, you want them to, life is about so much more than that. And Shay understood that. It's more than I've talked about this. I don't really remember moments in my career. I remember the people and how they treated each other. So that's something, it's like, Shay's going to be remembered in our program for a very, very long time. And it's more about how she treated her teammates and how she went about her business throughout her 4 years here is just incredibly special. And it is. It's just that. It's not about how many, in the end, it's not about how many points you score and what you did. We'd like to get some more wins, that's for sure. But it's going to be more about, how did you handle your business and how did you treat people? So Shay epitomizes that more than anybody I think I've ever coached in my life. So.
Okay. Your first year as head coach is in the books now. So how would you grade yourself and how the program was in your first year?
Oh man, you're hitting me with hard ones. I'm still in the process of that.
Okay.
I mean, that's what we're doing every day right now. I'm just sitting in my office trying to figure it out, Obviously, we weren't what we need to be competitively. We have incredible people in our program, and I think we found a team chemistry and a bond and, all that. But at the same time, yes, we've got to win some basketball games. So I'm not sure exactly how to – I certainly learned a lot as far as, we set the brand that we want to play. We know that. I think it took us a little too long to get to that point throughout the season. I think just it's going to be a lot of self-reflection yet and figuring it out. But yeah, I couldn't tell you what grade. I mean, not good. I don't like losing. So if I were to give you my honest, I'm not happy with the way that the season went. But we stuck together. That's the number one thing. I think, we could have fallen apart and as a group lost team chemistry and lost kind of who we were. But on a whole, our bus rides were still a blast. We still enjoyed being together. We still have incredible people in this program that are going to do awesome things outside of the basketball realm. So it's tough to gauge the difference between the two, but we got to win some more games.
All right. So what is next for you and for the team? I know that there's some space that you have to have from the NCAA as far as what you can do with the team, but what's next for your coaching staff and what's next basically for the rest of the team as you prepare for next season?
Yeah, well, it was on an interim basis, so we will be going through the process yet and going through that probably in the next month or so. As far as basketball standpoint with our kids, whether good or bad, I don't know if they're happy about it. You probably talked with Coach Eisner about it. He's not happy, I'm sure, about how the fact that our spring break fell after our 2 weeks. Right. So we've got 3 weeks here that, they've got a break. So for good or bad, they have 3 weeks away, and we really can't do anything with them. But once they get back from spring break, it's go time.
Okay, so you said you're still on an interim basis, so do you still need to sell yourself to the program? I mean, how does that work? We'll go through the interview process and do all that. So I'll start with myself and then move on to Hannah. And so I mean, it was just an emergency hire position last year with Coach leaving so late, and so now we officially have to go through the process. Okay, so you may not be able to answer the rest of these questions then, but I mean, what goes on between now and the first time that you have an official practice? I guess you still have to be hired in order for that to happen, but we're going to assume that that's the case. So what do you do?
Yeah, well, recruiting is the number one thing right now.
Yeah.
So, we're recruiting, and we'll be going out to state tournaments. Hannah and I were just going through the lineup of Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Where do we got to go next? It's getting better, and there's many ways of getting better. I need to be better. I need to, improve, obviously, us as a coaching staff. And then it's our workouts here with our players, and we've got to make some large jumps here across the board. And then, so it's either the people within the program are getting better and continuously doing that, and then we also have to go out and get some players that'll help us make us better. Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. I don't want you to give any specifics or anything that's going to tip anything off, but you got the transfer portal situation, you've got, COVID years that you have to try to figure out, and whether or not players return to the program or not. Right. How do you even begin to build a roster, build a plan for what will happen next season? Right. Well, I mean, I will add this one. Caitlin Riley, she didn't know throughout the entire year what she was going to do. We do not have her master's program.
Oh.
So that's a tricky one. So she will also be moving forward. So for that reason, she, there's no negative. Honestly, prior to this, she had originally said she wasn't coming back, but then she really enjoyed being around and had fun, and there was part of her that wants to stay. But ultimately, we don't have what she needs academically. She wants an MBA, so she's going to move forward. But yeah, we're going to have to obviously replace. You got a lot of shooting in that. You've got Lauren Fetch and a lot of scoring, and we lost our energy bus. So we've got a lot of pieces that we've got to, either in-house, people have to step up, or we've got to go elsewhere and find some.
Okay. For you personally, what has this been like? Because I know, as you said, you're a mom of young kids, and they've been around the program and around the team and everything. I mean, what has that been like to balance family and coaching and the team and games and everything like that?
Right. It's been a difficult year as far as time goes. I can say I've never been in the office this early, but the times are just different. I put my kids to bed, 8 o'clock. So that means I get in the office at about 4. At a lot of times when I need to get my film in and work on stuff. So just time is different. It's not that it can't be done and balanced for sure. But yeah, I get home and it's not like I can go home and watch film anymore as much as I'd like. And I try, and my 2-year-old, one of her favorite sayings right now is no basketball. She will not let me put basketball on the TV. Sometimes I try to sneak some NSIC network games up there, just so I can try to watch a little film while we're playing with blocks and Play-Doh. But yeah, it's been very interesting, I would say. But as far as once I'm able to bring them to the program and they get to spend time with my players, I mean, there's nothing cooler than to see that. They all embrace my kids. I know Shay is asking right now, she wants to bring Lennon to her gymnastics thing tomorrow. She goes and does something at the university there, and so she's going to run around with her. But yeah, it's just so cool to see, them be like older sisters to my kids and love them as they do. So it's been a lot, but it's truly been enjoyable just because we've got awesome people in our program that are really fun to be around and just care about the right things. So yeah, it's been a great year. But yeah, obviously the win-loss column, we'd like to fix that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Last question that we have then, because you've had so many years an assistant and been in this program for a while, how different is assistant coach, head coach?
Yeah.
And how do you kind of balance that as you move forward and be a head coach in the future?
I mean, I think with Coach Ballard, he was awesome and just allowing me to do so many things that maybe a normal assistant wouldn't do. I had a lot of calls to go be a Division I assistant throughout the last 10 years coaching with him, but never once was I interested in doing something like that because I was already working for a man that I knew was letting me do so many different things, and I had my hands in so many different pieces of our program. And I know that you can get to the higher level programs and things get divided up so much that I would have had a hard time not being able to really have a great say in everything. So in some ways, not a huge difference, but obviously the pressure feels different. Definitely in this, there was some where just you step in the other shoes, and my players maybe aren't as comfortable or free talking with me, which is just always so goofy. Nothing has changed. I'm the same person. Yeah. So working on that and just working on understanding that for sure on my part. But I don't know. That's another one I got to sit down and think about, but enjoy it. But I'm also talking to Coach Ballard he texts me before every game. He watched every game. I think he didn't text me after every game if we lost. He left me alone. But very supportive, and he's rooting for me. And I think part of me, I still had him in my corner, which feels nice.
All right, very good. Well, I appreciate the time that you've spent with us to talk Warrior basketball, and congratulations on what you did accomplish this season.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll see you next year.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for watching the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. We will see you next time.